Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video with Tank Pro today, and today we're doing, well, boys and girls, I'm glad that you asked, because today we're on World Tanks Console, that's right. And what we're doing on here to Tank? Well, again, I'm glad that you so asked, because today we are taking a look at the new, all singing, all dancing, Japanese tank destroyers, that's right. They're found here in World Tanks Console, and we're going to go over every single vehicle in the tech tree line. The only thing we're going to be going over is mostly the gun, the armor, and the hit points of the vehicle, and that's basically it, like we have done previously in previous videos. Sorry for that. Um, because I've done, like, the Russian double barrel heavy tanks like this. I've even done the German lights and tank destroyers in Cold War, and heck, I've even done the French cruiser line world warships and the German destroyer line in world warships console as well. And I've done two other vehicles as well. We have done this too in World Tanks console. So today is the Japanese turn, and they're getting their new tank destroyers in the game. Of course, we get two premiums, a tier 8 premium and a tier 6 premium. But yeah, today is not about the premiums. Today is majority of the tech tree vehicles. And one thing that PC players does not get is that we get a tier 3 tech tree little tank destroyer. So the PC players does not get this machine. So that's an A plus for the console players. But we are going to be going over this vehicle a little bit more in depth and detail. So let's see it. So the ammunition type we have on this gun is that we got AP, APCR, and HE rounds. Alright, it's the normal thing what you expect down here at this tier, and all of that. And of course, with our standard AP rounds, we get 81 meters penetration, our APCR gets actually 22, and our HE gets 25. Damage is 70 around both the AP and APCR, and 90 for HE. We get 270 hit points, which, okay, not that bad. And let's look at the gun itself. It's a 47mm gun type 1. The rate of fire is 7.60 rounds per minute. Accuracy 100 meters is 0.42. And also the penetration, well, I've already talked about the penetration damage of tank. Of course, I've already talked about the ammunition type. Well, we can carry up to 112 rounds. Alright. What about the upgrade gun? Which is a 47mm type 5 gun. The rate of fire is 19.35. Accuracy 100 meters is 0.39. Damage is 70, which doesn't look like it went up from the stock gun. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yep. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like the damage went up a little bit. I'm sorry if I was looking at something else as well. I have the main Wargaming wiki on, so that we can look at the stock, not stock, but the upgrade guns. So our penetration is 90, so our penetration does go up a little bit, just a little bit more, and then of course we get AP, APCR, and HE, and can carry up to 112 rounds. But let's talk about the penetration of our APCR is 138 meters of penetration, and 25 for our HE, and 70 damage for our APCR, but also 90 damage for our HE, which is, again, not bad for a tier 3 vehicle, after all. But let's look at the armor of the vehicle, because it's always good to know what your armor is, in this case if you need to use it in a situation. So we get around 6 meters thickness, which looks like the roof deck of the flying compartment, the engine deck. Yep, the roof of the engine deck. Then we have 9 meters thickness, which is the roof of the confined compartment, plus the upper plate, plus the belly of the tank. And then we have 10 meters thickness, which is the confined compartment, the gun, the tracks, the sides, and the rear of the tank, of the butt area. And we have 12 meters thickness, which is the sides of the hull towards the front of the confined compartment, plus the gun a little bit, plus the little mid plate right there. Okay. Then we have 18 meters thickness, which is this little bit right here. It's very hard to see it, but yeah. Okay. Then we have 20 meters thickness, which is the gun mount itself, and the gun, a little bit of the gun itself as well. So okay, there we go. That is the little Japanese tier 3 tank destroyer. Very small, low profile, so I'm guessing this thing is pretty much, if you set it up right, you're gonna be pretty sneaky, and with a B range as well, might be pretty good if you set up this thing as a sneaky little tier 3 tank destroyer. But let's look at our next tier, which is the tier 4 tank destroyer for Japan, which is the Type 1 Ho-Ni 1. So, let's take a look at this big bad boy. And there's something that I must say about this line that doesn't make sense is the ammunition. Because right here it will tell you AP, APCR, and HE, but right here we have AP, APHE, and HE. So I'm not sure if this is just like, but it's calling the round or the way it is. I really have no clue. But yeah, definitely. But we do have a 7.5 centimeter gun, Type 88, and our main damage, or actually penetration and damage for the gun. So our penetration for our AP is 140, and then our APCR, or whatever you want to call it, is 180, and our HE is around 38. Damage is 130 for both AP and APCR, and around 175 for HE. We get 390 hit points, and of course this is a tier 4 vehicle, so you are going to see 2 tiers higher than you, unlike the tier 3, where it gets a protection against the matchmaking where it will only see tier 4s, but it will not see tier 5s. So that's a good thing for a tier 3 vehicle, but this thing will not get that same matchmaking. This is where the matchmaking starts throwing you the ball game. But let's look at the gun the rest of the way. So the rate of fire is 12.50 rounds per minute, accuracy 100 meters is 0.35. Of course, we've already talked about the damage, the penetration, and the rounds, but we can carry up to 54 rounds in this tank destroyer. Let's talk about the upgrade gun, which is a 10.5 centimeter Type 90 rifled howitzer. This is your derpy type of gun, which is going to hit hard. But yeah, okay, not the biggest amount of penetration as well, but still hits pretty dang hard. And my dog is knocking on the ground a little bit if you guys can hear that. My papai. It's the big one. It's not the small one. She's itching herself. She's giving her a good self an itch. But let's carry on here. So the rate of fire of this gun is a 6.98. Okay. I guess she quit. But it's 6.98. Accuracy 100 meters is 0.45. Damage is 300 for the standard AP, and penetration with AP is also 75. We get AP, APCR, HE rounds, and then we can also carry up to 54 rounds. The penetration of our APCR rounds is 150, and HE is 53. 300 damage for the APCR rounds and 360 for HE. Okay, not that bad of what the gun could do and perform for us. But now it's time to look at the armor of this little tier 4 tank destroyer. At these lower tier vehicles of both tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, and even tier 6, where they don't seem like they're the best armored tank destroyers at their tiers. But once you start going up the line at tier 7 and higher, then they start looking like they're going to be monsters of their armor. But still, it's pretty cool to know about your armor. Let's go right into it. So, we have 8 meter thickness, which is the mud flaps and the belly of the tank. 10 meter thickness, which is the upper plate right there, plus the roof of the engine deck, plus inside of the what do you want to call that? The fine compartment. And no, it's not the front of the hull where the driver and the machine gun port sits. As you can see. I thought that too, but it's not. Then we have 15 meter thickness, which is a part that's holding the gun there, plus the little viewpoint, plus above the fine compartment and the tracks itself. 20 meter thickness, which is the fine compartment, this bit right there. and plus the sides of the hull and also the rear of the butt of the tank as well. We have 25 near sickness, which is the lower plate, sides, armor, and the machine gun and the driver sits as well. Then we have 30 near sickness, which is the gun, or the back of the gun. Then we have 45 near sickness, which is both left and right of the gun mantlet and the gun itself. So okay, all right, there we go. Sorry for that. But yeah, that is the Japanese Type 1 Ho Ni 1 tank destroyer already reviewed. Now let's go to our next tier, which is tier 5, and this thing is the Type 3 Ho Ni 3, which is sorry for that, guys. I think I'm getting sick a little bit here, so if I do that in the video, I am sorry for it. I'm gonna try to do it as not, try not to do it as much as I can in the video, but we're gonna try to get this video done for you guys for today. But yeah, let's talk about this thing. Now, this thing does look like it's the same tank destroyer, or at least the same hull as the previous one, but with a enclosed fighting compartment this time. So yeah, again, I'm sorry for that. That one had to come out, I guess. So, what type of gun do we have, and what type of ammunition are we talking about? Well, we have a 7.5 centimeter Type 88 gun. We get AP, APCR, and HE rounds on this gun. Penetration is 140 with its standard AP, and for its APCR 180, and HE is 38. Damage is 130 for both your AP and APCR, and damage is for your HE is 175. This time we get 450 hit points. Again, we're at tier 5, so we are going to be seeing those tier 7 vehicles because 2+2 matchmaking for this vehicle. So yeah, again, I am so sorry for that, guys. But let's talk about the rest of the characteristics of the gun. The rate of fire is 13.64. Accuracy 100 meters is 0.35. Of course, we've already talked about the damage and the penetration and the rounds, but we can carry up to 55 rounds on this vehicle. Now, let's talk about the upgraded gun, which is a 7.5 centimeter Type 90 gun. The rate of fire is 14.29. Accuracy is 0.34. Damage is 130 for both its regular AP and APC rounds. Penetration for its standard AP rounds is 150. And of course, we can carry AP, APCR, and HE rounds, and we can carry up to 55 rounds. But the penetration for its APCR is 194, and for HE is 40. Damage for HE is 175. So yeah, all right. I guess let's back up that, and let's go ahead and talk about the armor of this real bad boy at tier 5. Again, I mean, it's always good to know about your armor and stuff, like I've said, but yeah. So, let's get right into it. We have 5 meter thickness, which is around the gun mantlet right there. Then we have 8 meter thickness, which is the belly, the mud flaps, and plus underneath the fighting compartment right there, the sides of the fighting compartment. And we have 10 meter thickness, which is the gun itself. We have 16 meter thickness, which is this upper plate plus above the driver's port, and the engine deck and the fighting compartment roof. And 20 meter thickness, which is the sides of the hull and the tracks itself. And then we have 25 meter thickness, which is the front of the driver's port and machine gun port and the lower plate, and the other plate right there, plus the back of the tank and both the sides, front, and rear of the fighting compartment, plus your gun mantlet. Okay. Again, not that bad, I guess. I mean, it's not the best well-armored vehicle down here at tier 5, but at least it does have some type of armor against some lower tiered vehicles when you do fight against some of those lower tiered. But like I said, where the armor really shines is more at tier 7 and higher, so do keep in mind that you do have that at tier 7, which we're almost at tier 7. We're at tier 6 now. So, this big bad boy, what is it? The Type 95 G-Row. Oh, this big boy looks like he's a boxy boy, pretty much. And these things do have a characteristic like the German Jagdpanzer E100 tank destroyer line, where they're mostly boxed in and all of that, and have decent guns, and some of them do have pretty good armor, especially once you start reaching the tier 7 and higher, like I said. But yeah, there we go. But let's talk about this tank. We do have AP, APCR, and HE, and it's a 7.5 centimeter Type 5 gun. Um, Penetration for its standard AP rounds is 150, APCR is 194, and HE is around 40. Damage is 135 for both its AP and its APCR. HE gets 175 damage, and we get 685 hit points this time. Not bad, right? Yeah. The rate of fire is 13.33. After the 100 meters is 0.33, and we can carry up to 60 rounds as well. Not bad for a little tank destroyer. But let's talk about the upgraded gun, which is 10.5 centimeter Type 92 road gun. The rate of fire is 6.67 rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.35. Damage for its standard AP rounds and its APCR rounds is around 300 meters. Damage. And then penetration is 175 meters penetration with its AP. And of course, we get AP, APCR, and HE, and we can carry up to 40 rounds. Now, what does your APCR round have as penetration? Well, it has 220 meters penetration, and HE is around 45. Your HE gets 400 alpha damage, which is, again, not very that bad if you look at it. In this case, if you need to hit those soft targets and stuff like that. So, okay. And then, oh wait, Tank, you forgot something. I know, guys. I almost did it though, but I caught myself before I actually did it. And let's do this. Let's show you guys the armor of this big bad boy. And again, that's like I said, as you can see, it doesn't have the best armor. But you know, I think by using it full gun depression, I think you might actually be able to use the armor pretty effectively and stuff here. But I do want to do something else, so we're going to have to go back, but we'll just wait. With that, I'm talking about something else, guys. I'm sorry for that. But let's talk about the armor about this big bad boy. So we have 10 meters thickness, which is the belly of the tank, and the side of the, well, in between the tracks. Then we have 15 meters thickness, which is the tracks itself. 20 meters thickness, which it looks like the mud flaps area, and plus the rear of the tank, and these two little bibs and bobs on above the flying compartment. When we have 25 meters thickness, which is the lower plate, the size of the hull, the upper plate, plus the roof of the where the driver and machine gunner sits, and the sides of the hull, plus these two little bits and bobs on the flying compartment, plus the gun mantlet itself. Then we have 30 meters thickness, which is the gun, and these two little spots on the flying compartment again. Then we have 35, which is the sides and left and right of the flying compartment. Then we have 40 meters thickness, which is the left and right of where the driver and machine gunner sits, which reminds you more of like the Förderland in the German tank destroyer line. Then we have 50 meters thickness, which is the mid plate of the front of the tank, where the driver and machine gunner sits, and the flying compartment itself. And we have 70 meters thickness, which is the gun mantlet itself as well. And that is basically it for this little tank destroyer. But before I do go ahead and go on, I do want to talk about how much XP is going to cost you to get these things. And the tier 3 is not going to cost you any XP at all due because of Wargaming, but it will cost you 42,000 credits to buy the tier 3 tank destroyer. The next tank, let's see. I forgot to do this while I was doing the reviews of these vehicles, guys, but I am sorry for that. So the next tank will cost you 7,020 XP, and also around 130,000 credits. Next tank, which is tier 5, it will cost you 18,450 XP to unlock the Type 3, and around 405,000 credits to buy the vehicle as well. Next tank, which is the Tier 6, it will cost you roughly around 39,300 XP to unlock the vehicle, and around 930,000 credits to buy the vehicle. Okay, so now we are definitely caught all up, and next is our Tier 7 Japanese tank destroyer, which is the G2SP. Again, I'm very sorry for that, guys. But let's talk about this vehicle and a few of the things about it. So this vehicle has a 7.5 centimeter Type 88 gun. It gets AP, APCR, and HE rounds on this vehicle. So let's talk about some of the characteristics of the gun. And due because this is Tier 7, it will meet 2 tiers higher, so you will see those Tier 9 games. But you will also see Tier 5. So the best matchup you're going to be seeing, if your bottom tier is a Tier 8 game, but the best would probably be a full Tier 7 game and below. But your standard AP rounds gets around 155 meters of penetration, and your APCR rounds gets 200 meters penetration. HE gets 40, damage is 140 for both your AP and APCR, and 175 for your HE. Hit points wise, you get 1,000 hit points, and due because these things don't get turrets, you do not get more hit points, so that's your stock hit points you do get. But let's talk about the gun a little bit more. The rate of fire is 16.67 rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is a 0.32. And of course, we've already talked about the damage, penetration, and the ammunition type we have. But we can carry up to 60 rounds on this vehicle. And I'm sorry for that. I thought my small dog was small dog Scooby Dooby Doo was starting to bark. So, what's our upgraded gun? Well, it's a 10.5 centimeter Type 92 gun, and he has barked a little bit. He's underneath the desk. The rate of fire is 6.52 rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.40. Damage is 320 for your AP, and penetration is 205, which is actually better, because you are a Tier 7 tank destroyer, and you are going to be seeing those Tier 8s and Tier 9s as well, so that is a very good thing. You get AP, APCR, and HE, and of course you can carry up to 40 rounds. But what is your penetration for your APCR? Is around 244 meters of penetration, and HE gets 60. And of course, APCR does get the same amount of damage as AP does, so do keep that in mind. But your HE gets 420 alpha damage. And of course, let's do the armor. Okay, we are at the armor. And the armor does look good if you start using your gun suppression. I bet that little cupola up there is not going to be much really there, but is a good size if you're on flat ground with this vehicle. So, yeah, okay. So, let's look at the armor. We have 20 meter thickness, which is the belly of the tank, and that is it. Oh wait, there's a little bit right there near the underneath the gun mantlet. Then we have 25 meters thickness, which is the tracks, and around the is it round? No, I don't think it is. Then we have 30 meters thickness, which is the engine, the roof of the engine, and plus the roof of the hull, and the little commander's hatch, and the rear of the fighting compartment. 35 meters thickness, which is the lower plate of the front and the rear of the tank and the gun itself. 37 meters thickness, which is the left and right of the sides of the hull. 40 meters thickness, which is the rear of the tank back here. As you can see, the butt of the tank. And 45 meters thickness, which is the size of the hull. And that's it. Right there. Okay. 50 meters thickness, which is the size of the hull, and the mud flaps were above the tracks, plus above and below the gun mantlet, and the forehead of the gun where the gun mantlet is as well. We have 60 meters thickness, which is above and below the gun mantlet. And then we have 80, which... oh, there it is. Mid-plate of the front of the hull. Then we have 90 meters thickness, which looks like is the commander's hat cupola. Then we have 100 meter thickness, which is again the cupola and where the gun mallet sits as well. Then we have 125, which is the upper plate and the forehead of the tank. Then we have 160 both left and right of the hull. 165, which it looks like it's not really noticeable. It's near the forehead and below the gun mantlet right there, if you can see it. And then we have 170, which is left and right of the gun mantlet. And then we have 195, which is the around the gun mantlet a little bit. A 200, which is on the sides of the gun mantlet. And 230, which is below the gun mantlet. And 250, which is the gun mantlet itself, the full front row of the gun mantlet. So yeah, that is the armor of the G2 SP. Well, let's talk about how much XP is going to cost you to unlock this tank. It is going to cost you roughly around 90,420 XP to unlock this tank, around 1,470,000 credits to buy the tank if you're going to buy the tank. And of course, why aren't you going to buy the tank if you're grinding up this new Japanese tank destroyer line? And that is, of course, boys and girls, the Tier 7 tank destroyer for the Japanese. Now we're on to the big boys at Tier 8. And this thing, if you don't keep an eye on this icon right here, you can tell it gets two different types of guns. It gets a secondary gun. So yeah, let's go down here and we'll see. So it gets, as we said, two types of guns. A 10.5 centimeter gun, thin, which is a 105 gun. Then we get the 47 millimeter Type 1 gun, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But for the stock gun, we get around AP, APCR, and the HE rounds. Okay, I am trying to get that up. But yes, the Holy 2. Okay, so let's go back, and not that far back, tank. But the Holy 2, the main penetration with its 105 gun is 220 with its standard AP rounds. Its APCR rounds gets 252 meters penetration, and HE gets around 60. Damage is 320 for both your AP and APCR, and around 420 for HE. Your hit points is 1,400, and again, this is a Tier 8, so it's a good thing because you are going to be seeing those Tier 9s and Tier 10s. And there's a Tier 10 tank that can do 1,000 if it doesn't hit your weak spots. It can still do a good bit amount of damage, and yes, I'm looking at you, AVRE. Everybody knows what you are. So let's look at the gun. The 105 gun, rate of fire is 6.74 rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.36. Of course, we've already talked about the damage and the penetration of the gun and the ammunition type we have, but we can carry up to 60 rounds. Our smaller gun is a 47mm gun, Type 1. Again, I'm sorry for that. The rate of fire is 28.57 rounds per minute, so pretty quick firing gun, which is good for if you want to keep your enemy tracked and you want to try to shoot them with your main gun and do some type of main damage with your main bigger caliber gun, which is awesome. We've already said, did we say about the accuracy? Accuracy is at 100 meters, 0.40. Damage is 70. Like I said, it's not the best damaging gun, but you're not probably going to be using it to damage a lot of things unless you're trying to damage something that's very lightly armored at Tier 8, which there's a few different types of vehicles at Tier 8 that's lightly armored. Penetration is 81 meters penetration, and of course we get AP, APCR, and HE, and we can carry up to 150 rounds as well. And let's look at the upgraded gun, which is the 12 centimeter Type 10 gun, which is saying is a 120 caliber gun. Our rate of fire is 5.45 meters rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.35. Damage is 400 for your AP, and penetration is 250 for AP. And of course, we get AP, APCR, and HE, and we can carry up to 40 rounds. Now, let's talk about the fully upgraded gun on this machine. So your APCR gets around 285 meters penetration and 80 for your HE. Damage for APCR is the same as your AP, which is 400, and your HE gets 515 alpha damage. And let's look at the armor of this machine. And yeah, look at that armor. That just, I mean, it sort of reminds me a little bit of the Italian tank destroyers when they came out, but definitely it has some good armor. Especially if you start using that gun to pressure on this machine, you're probably really gonna make these things be very effective on the battlefield. But let's see what the armor is on this machine. So we have 10 meters thickness, which is the small gun, right there as you can see it. 15 meters thickness, which is around the gun mantlet on the small gun. No, it's not the big gun. If it is, then I would be very afraid. I would not want to poke myself around a ridge. We have 20 meters thickness, which is the belly of the tank, and it looks like also below the gun a little bit. 25 meters thickness, which is the tracks. We have 30 meters thickness, which it is the roof of the fine compartment and that little like forehead piece up there, plus the commander's port. We have 35 meters thickness, which is the gun, that little forehead piece plus rear of the commander's hatch. We have 40 meters thickness, which is the rear of the little forehead and rear of the fighting compartment plus the engine deck, and also the rear bottom plate of the rear of the tank. Again, guys, I am so sorry for this coffin. We have 45 meters thickness, which is above and below the gun mantlet. Then we have 50 meters thickness, which looks like it's a upper plate, lower plate, the sides of the hull, and the forehead and sides of the little commander's hatch, plus the rear of the tank itself. Yep, above the tank, and plus the above the tracks. We have 70 meters thickness, which is above the both gun mantlet and the gun itself. Then we have 100 meters thickness, which is the little commander's hatch. 110, which is the mid plate. 155, which is both left and right of the hull. 160, which is the, well, above the gun mantlet. 165, which is both left and right of the gun mantlet. 170, both left and right of the gun. 175, which is both left and right of the main fighting compartment of the tank. Then we have 180, which is, well, again, left and right of the gun. And 210, which is the mid part of where the gun is. And 220, which is where the gunner and the driver sits. I guess you want to say a machine gun, but that's not a machine gun. So where the small gun sits as well. Then we have the 230, which is a little bit near the gun mantlet. 250, which is around the gun mantlet itself. And 270, which is the gun mantlet itself as well. And now let's talk about how much XP is going to cost you to unlock this tank. It is going to cost you around 145,200 XP to unlock this tank. How much it's going to cost you to buy is 2,600,000 credits to buy this tier 8 Japanese tank destroyer. And boys and girls, oof. Okay, I was going to say, we are near the end. We are going to be looking at the Hori 1, the tier 9 Japanese tank destroyer. Oh, yeah, this has been pretty fun to doing, but once we get this thing on, like, we have the tier 10. Yeah. So, the Hori 1. What should we know about? Well, it does get AP, APCR, and HE, but again, it gets another gun too, so yeah, there we go. We got two different types of guns. The only two tanks that really gets it, the tier 8 and the tier 9, gets a small gun plus the main caliber gun itself. But yeah, there we go. Of course, our penetration is 265 meters of penetration. With our stock AP rounds, our APCR gets 305, and our HE gets around 80. Damage is 500 for both your AP and your APCR, and around 600 damage for HE. And we get around 1,800 hit points. Rest of the characteristics of the main caliber gun is rate of fire. It's a 12.7 centimeter Type 89 gun. was saying again, it's a 127 caliber gun. Rate of fire is 4.44 rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.35. Of course, we've already talked about the damage and the pen and the amount of the ammunition we carry, but we carry around 50 rounds of this gun. Our smaller gun is a 47mm Type 1 gun. The rate of fire is 28.57 rounds per minute. Accuracy at 100 meters is 0.47. Damage is 70. With your standard AP rounds, maybe I should have said that about the last one as well. But it's the same type of gun, so I guess we'll talk about this as well for this vehicle. But penetration is 81. We get AP, ABCR, and HE, and 150 rounds we can carry. So for the small gun, even for the previous tank, is 122 meters of penetration for your AP, APCR, and 25 for HE, and of course 90 damage for your HE, and 70 for both your AP and APCR. So, alright. Now, let's go ahead and, again, I'm very sorry for that, for the upgrade gun, which I like the upgrade gun where it's at. It's not the first upgrade, but it's the second upgrade for this thing, which is a 14.9 centimeter Type 96 gun, which is in retrospect, it's saying is a 149 caliber gun. So yeah, the rate of fire is 3.77, accuracy at 100 meters 0.36, damage is 650, pen is 290. We get AP, ABCR, and HE, and carry up to 40 rounds on it too. Now, let's talk about the APCR's penetration is 325, and HE gets around 90. Damage is 650, just like the standard AP round for the APCR, and 840 for HE. Okay. So, let's talk about how much XP is going to cost you to unlock this big boy. It's going to cost you around 251,800 XP to unlock this big boy. How much credits is going to cost us a tank? Well, 3,650,000 credits to buy this tier 9 Japanese tank destroyer. And yeah. And I forgot something else too. Armor. I almost forgot about the armor there, boys and girls. Good thing I caught myself again. I would have went to the last tank and just gone ahead and talk about the last tank. But let's get right into the armor of this big boy. So we have 10 meter thickness, which is the gun itself again. 15, which is again where this small gun is. 20 meter thickness, which is the belly of the tank. 25 meter thickness, which is the tracks. 30 meter thickness, which is the roof of the fine compartment. 35 meter thickness, which is the rear of the fine compartment and below the fine compartment in the back and the lower plate in the back. We have 45 meter thickness, which is where the tracks are in the rear, underneath of where the fine compartment, and plus the roof of where the small gun and the driver sits, and plus the upper plate. We have 50 meter thickness, which is the size of the fine compartment, the gun, where the gun mantlet is, and also the size of the hull as well. We have 60 meter thickness, which is the gun itself. We have 100, which is around the gun mantlet. 120, which is the mid plate. 165, which it looks like this might be actually below the small gun. Or is it? I think it is. Or no, it's not. No, oh wait, there it is. It's a very small target. It's a little port that is at the tank destroyer. Then we have 170, which is both left and right of where the small gun and the driver sits. Then we have 245, which is where the small gun and the driver sits at. Oof, a lot of armor. 250, which is around the gun mantlet itself. And 270, which is the forehead of the tank. 300, which is the front of the fine compartment. And 350, which is the gun mantlet itself. Okay, so that is the whole one, and dang, that's a big boy. But Now it's time for the last one, there, boys and girls, and it doesn't get a small gun unlike the previous two, but oh well, it still looks like a nice big old tank destroyer, the old V3 here. And what kind of caliber gun do we get on this big boy? Well, we get the 14.9 centimeter Type 97 gun. Still the 149 caliber gun, and we still get AP, APCR, and HE on this gun as well. And the pin of this gun is 305 for your standard AP, 360 for your APCR, and 90 for HE. Damage is 700 for both your AP and the APCR, and 900 for HE. Hit points is 2,000 hit points. Alright, so let's look at the gun itself with rest of its characteristics. So the gun has the rate of fire 3.66, accuracy 100 meters 0.36, and can carry up to 40 different types of rounds. And of course, this vehicle does not unlock anything else. I know most tier 10 tanks don't unlock anything, except a couple does, like the E100 does, but this does not. So let's talk about the armor, and this thing just looks like a monster on the battlefield against those lower tier tanks. Yeah, this thing is probably going to be a beast, especially if you're using that full gun depression, just showing your fighting compartment. It's going to be rough for a lot of tier 9s and tier 8 tanks to probably to deal with this beast. But let's look at the armor. Let's see what the armor is and where are they thick at. So we have 20 meters thickness, which is the belly of the tank and the tracks itself, and the roof of the fighting compartment. Then we have 30 meters thickness, which is where the driver sits and where the machine gunner sits. I don't think there's a machine gunner in this tank. 35 meters thickness, which is around the gun outlet, these little left and right parts on the fighting compartment, and also the whole back of the tank. We have 50 meters thickness, which is the size of the hull, in the fighting compartment, and also the lower plate. Okay, and also somewhat the gun as well. We have 60 meters thickness, which is the gun itself, 100, which is the upper plate, 110, which is both left and right of the, where the driver sits, 120, which is the mid plate, and then we have 300, which is the fighting compartment itself, and then we have 350, which is the gun outlet and where the gun sits as well. Okay, well there we go. That is the whole V3, and I know what you're all thinking. Hey Tank, how much is it going to cost us to unlock, and how much is it going to cost us to buy this big bad boy? Well, with XP wise, it's going to cost you 367,900 XP to unlock this tank destroyer, around 6,100,000 credits to buy this big bad boy. And yeah, that is the last of the tank destroyers for Japan. No, we're not going to be covering the two premiums. Wait, what, Tank? Yes, we've on console we got two premiums. We got the Tier 8 premium, which is in the season, so if you play the season, you'll very probably gotten it. But if you decided to also buy the Tier 6 premium, which is the Type 5 KT, which will cost you roughly 4,000 gold to buy it. But that's Tier 5 premium. Well, actually, not Tier 5, Tier 6 premium. But we're not really going to be talking about the premiums too much in this video. But that is the full Japanese tank destroyers, guys, in a nutshell. I mean, I do have fun making these videos because these are just really fun videos to get out there for you guys. Yeah, and pretty long videos these are too sometimes, depending on whether are they if they're in Cold War or they're not in Cold War. It all depends on how long these videos are. But we are still going to keep on doing this, even in sorry for that. Even in the future when other tanks will come out, like new Cold War Tech Tree tanks, and also long beside that. Well, also we will be doing this when the American Yo tanks comes out, the Chinese rocket tanks, the Japanese other heavy tank line, and the British armored car line, along with the Polish tank destroyers and the Czechs light tank lines. When they all come out, I will be doing the same thing for those lines as well, along with this tank line we just did. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Have you already played up to tier 10? And if you have reached tier 10, which one do you like? Or are you planning on playing this line up to tier 10? And if you are, do you think any of them look nice or cool looking or something like that? Or look like they're going to be big bad boys on the battlefield? I'd like to know what you guys think about these new Japanese tank destroyers. I think they're going to be pretty strong, at least with what their guns looks like. But do they really bring anything new to the game? Maybe not. But still, it's nice to have these big boys in the game. But guys, I really did hope you guys do enjoy this type of video. If you have, please leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys want to. And like always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.